People who delegate effectively generate 33% more income than those that don't. Just want to let that marinate.
When and where were you ever taught to delegate? Like, really think about it. It's something that nobody has been taught in school. From preschool to college, we are trained to be self-reliant. You're measured on individual assignments, solo scores, and even in group projects, you are, surrounded by a lot of people, but you're all at the same level. So you can't delegate. And I think we all kind of have PTSD from group projects.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of like our childhood and like going through school, it's more collaboration.
Right.
And I think there is an element of collaboration to delegation, good delegation, but it is different to your point. You need to be so much more strategic when you're delegating something. It's not just collaboration at that point.
Exactly. This whole episode is going to be your guide to proactive delegation. So you're not already in the fire before you need to hire somebody. We're going to be referencing some of the best delegation frameworks that we've learned, giving you a step-by-step process on how to delegate proactively so you can scale effectively. Welcome to Untitled,
a podcast and educational brand where the nostalgia of higher education meets the sharp edge of a corporate boardroom.
I'm Sophie.
And I'm Alex.
And together we deliver no BS insights for ambitious freelancers, corporate climbers, multi-hyphenates, and business owners.
By challenging the limits of a single title, we're here to empower you to redefine success.
And make your work work for you.
Class is in session.
Lesson 1, delegation is not a weakness, it is a strength.
Like Sophie already mentioned, most people don't start delegating until they're already underwater. In fact, they're drowning. Ultimately, delegation is about designing for scale. When you plan to delegate early, you are moving from reactive survival to proactive growth. It doesn't matter if that growth is within your own business, a corporate role. It really just is shifting your mindset from the now to thinking future. And if you're not always learning and looking for new opportunities, you simply won't grow. It doesn't matter what you're doing. So you need to be able to have capacity in order to look for those new opportunities. How are you going to do that? You're going to do that by delegating. You cannot do that if you are working alone. Then you are able to reinvest that time that you earn back by delegating. It's actually harder to delegate something than it is to do it yourself.
It's always harder at first.
Yeah.
And I didn't even
Sophie's
really get
actually
that.
Going through this right now.
Yeah.
So I want you to share like a little bit about your experience and also how when you feel like you actually are feeling the benefit of delegation, because it's not instant gratification
at all. It's so much harder at first. And I know that when I hire somebody on, it's going to be a hell of a lot more work for me for like 1 to 2 months. And I'm not going to be able to feel or recognize the benefits of having another person on the team until like a few months later, when they're finally getting it.
And I think the element that makes it so much harder to delegate something versus just doing it yourself is delegation requires a lot. It requires clear communication. It requires trust. It requires patience. It requires letting go of control.
But that is if you're delegating the right way. And we'll talk a little bit more on how to delegate in the right way, because delegation is not just hiring someone on and throwing them a bunch of work. Like, that's just absolutely not it. But when you're delegating the right way, it will take time to train. It will take time to, answer questions, give feedback, lay out the foundation for the person that's joining your team. There are so many moments where it's like, oh, it would have been so much quicker for me to do it myself. Like, it is harder to hire someone on. It is more work to hire someone on in the beginning, but it's that short-term investment of, I know this is going to be rough right now, to lay the groundwork for an amazing long-term gain. That's not only going to help you scale, but it's going to free up some of your time to focus on more important things, which we'll talk about more again later on in the episode. I am going through this right now, and I did wait until I was burning on fire to hire an additional team member. And it's really challenging. Like last Wednesday, I was up until 4 a.m. and I had a client call at actually 8 a.m. And it's just unhealthy. It's like I am on fire.
Yeah.
And I wish that I could have, proactively delegated certain things that I knew I was wasting my time on.
Yeah.
And because there are things I'm doing every single day that do not require the strategy that I bring to my clients.
Yeah.
Lesson 2, hire for where you're going, not where you are. If you want to scale, you need to be pricing your services with your future team in mind. You need to be pricing for the business that you're building, not just the one that you're running now. This was advice that I received when I was in a very chaotic, busy season of my life. And that mindset shift was a game changer for me. Because not only am I thinking about my time that's valuable, I need to be thinking about the team that I want to bring on to help support my clients.
Yeah.
And how valuable their time is and how I can sustain this business, sustain this operation at a rate that's going to be able to scale, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's also how you are going to be able to bring on high value people.
Exactly.
Too. In some cases, especially when you're in the early stages of starting a business and you have the goal in your mind to grow fast, to scale quickly, you may have to invest a little bit more than you're comfortable with in order to grow. And an example of that is, when I first started freelancing and I wanted to scale my freelance business, I would have clients paying me, let's say, X amount. Just as an example, I'm going to use $75 an hour for graphic design. And when I was looking to scale, the graphic designer that I was going to hire was $60 an hour. Well, then I'm not really profiting that much off of that client, that specific client. But that's the whole point. You're not going to profit nearly as much because you aren't doing the work. And going back to that example, the extra $50 an hour that you could have earned by doing the work you delegated is not the $50,000 that you could potentially be earning by focusing on more critical work in your business.
Once you recognize that, you are back on the path to success and you will feel it. I am feeling this right now. It's actually so crazy that we bring up this example because I'm experiencing this exact situation. One of the services we offer at my agency is graphic design and branding. And, I'm fully capable of doing it myself. I can do it myself. I like when I do it.
Yeah.
It's fine. It does take me a longer time. It's not my biggest strength. But I realized I really needed to be more involved in higher level client strategy, more client retention, and graphic design takes me time. And so about 6 months ago, I hired a graphic designer and I priced my agency rate only $15 to $20 an hour more than I pay this graphic designer. I am not making a profit. In fact, I am not even breaking even. If I count the amount of hours I'm putting in giving feedback to my graphic designer, managing client communications with the graphic design project, overall client admin, I am losing money.
Yeah.
Genuinely. But that's actually the entire point. It's okay to lose money right now. I'm not upset about losing money right now because the point is I've created space. And the hours I was spending on graphic design are now being redirected towards growing the business. There's so much that I'm doing right now and I feel it. My business is growing and it feels so good. Yeah. I might not be making the, extra $50 an hour, like you mentioned in that wonderful example, but I'm making so much more than that now that I'm bringing in these new incredible high value clients. And, when you're able to step away from those kind of tasks, you are going to be able to focus on those critical aspects of your business, whether it's building stronger relationships, pitching new business, tightening up your systems. That's another really big, important one. Or like even developing content. If you're a D2C, developing content is so important. Like that is kind of something that really brings in leads. That's where my time is better spent than, being in Canva or Photoshop. Like I love it. I think it's fun, but it's just not where I should be spending my time at this point of my journey. And those choices really compound over time.
I think that, some common thought processes people have around delegation is like, oh, I can hire when I'm consistently making X, or I don't want to bring someone on unless I'm like fully booked and maxed out. Please re-listen to this section of the episode if that's still going through your mind, because you won't figure this out when you have a bigger budget to delegate.
No.
Like, let's just be really honest.
Yeah.
You're not going to figure it out then. You need to start figuring it out right now. Lesson 3, efficiency without boundaries leads to burnout. By being more efficient, you can absolutely delay the critical point in which you need to delegate.
I want you to expand a little bit more on that.
The more efficient you are, the longer you can put off delegating. And
it's actually not a good thing.
No, it's actually a horrible thing, because you're not just delaying delegation, you're delaying growth. The more efficient you are, the longer you can put off delegating. But it's also important to recognize that you're never going to reach a place where you never have to delegate. You will always need to delegate eventually.
Efficiency is almost like a trap sometimes, because when you're good at your job, more work is going to come your way. When you do good work, you are going to get more work, and you can be more efficient in some of the work that you do. And when more work comes, it's actually going to be required for you to be more efficient. But there is this lie baked into hustle and productivity culture that if you get organized enough, you're just going to catch up and it's going to be great. You'll invite more work in because you can do it all so efficiently. But like, this is where we're saying you don't want to get to that point. I've seen people, especially now, and especially with the help of AI, I have been seeing people become so efficient at their jobs that they are maintaining a high quality output while taking on more and more business, more and more responsibilities. And the problem is this kind of productivity becomes a trap. It's the efficiency trap. And the better that you're performing, the more you are expected to handle. And it creates an unsustainable pace that will not last. It's knowing that just because you're able to handle it, that doesn't mean that that's a reason to keep doing it.
Also, if you're managing a fully freelance team like Sophie does, setting boundaries around communication is critical in the realm of delegation. She uses a system called rules of engagement. And I remember Sophie actually told me this a couple months into us knowing each other and working together. Essentially, what the rules of engagement are is each person within her team is clear on when they are available to work and receive communication and when they're not. And I know that sounds so simple and so basic, but it's a game changer for preventing burnout and also setting expectations.
Also preventing like resentment. It is so important to do as soon as you hire somebody on, like as soon as you hire them on, especially if they work in a freelance capacity, because a lot of the people that work with me actually are either working full time or have, a bunch of other clients that they have on their freelance list, but they're still working for my agency like 15 to 20 hours a week. I will actually read you guys an email that I just sent last week to a new hire, so you kind of can understand how to communicate establishing the rules of engagement with anyone you hire on. And before I read it, I just want to note that like these hours of your rules of engagement are hours that you communicate, like Alex said. These are not the hours that you're working. It's the hours where you're okay with receiving communication by me or as someone else on the team. These are also shared with clients. In full-time roles, that boundary is already set. It's 9 to 5. a lot of the time. That is so different when you're working and delegating work in managing a full freelance team, because some people want to work on the weekends. Some people don't want to be on the weekends. Some people who have full-time jobs, but they still freelance for my agency. They're like, I actually don't want to be communicated with during the day. I only want to be communicated with after 5. It's so different for everyone. And so this is an email that I sent during an onboarding process last week. Okay, I said, hey, since we don't operate on traditional set hours, it's important we each define the time windows when we're available for work-related communications. These hours are meant to protect your personal time and help the team stay respectful of one another's boundaries. Your personal rules of engagement will also be shared with clients to set clear expectations on both sides. So we're sharing it with the whole team and the clients. And then I send them mine for reference. So I'm like, here are mine for reference: Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9:30 p.m., Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., Sunday, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. These aren't necessarily my working hours. They're just times I'm open to receiving tribe-related messages. Tribe is my marketing agency. So I'm the agency owner. So every single day I'm open to receiving communications. And I'm not going to be pressed if someone reaches out to me outside of those hours, but I do still communicate when I would prefer.
I think it also it's not going to completely limit communication outside of those hours.
Right.
But it is going to reduce it.
Right.
Because you are doing the work to communicate.
I work on Friday nights a lot. I work on Sundays a lot. I work every single day. I love what I do. So, it's not really that big of a deal to me, but I'm not going to email my account manager at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. I'll think before. If that's not in her rules of engagement, I will schedule the email to send during that time.
If you have ADHD, scheduling emails is game changing.
I once scheduled, Wednesday, when I stayed up until 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I literally forgot that you could schedule text messages.
Yeah, I know. That's new though. That's new work.
It was 3 a.m. and I had to get a video to a client really bad. And I knew that I just needed it. I needed to get it to him in the morning.
Yeah.
Immediately. I scheduled the text to send at 6:30 in the morning, and I'm over here in my bed at 3 a.m. Fuck. But yeah, the scheduling thing is a game changer.
No, it's so great. And it's also if you have rules of engagement, schedule your communications within those hours for each team member. That's respectful. And it also creates this energy within your organization, within the people the team that you're working with, that you see their boundary, you're respecting their boundary. They're only going to do the same to you. So I love that so much. And I'm so glad that you shared it, because I think that will help so many people. Lesson 4, borrow delegation frameworks from the best. We do not need to reinvent the wheel when we're already struggling to do something. If you're listening to this episode and you're having a hard time figuring out, when should I be delegating? How do I delegate? Don't reinvent the wheel. There are some really amazing delegation frameworks out there. We're going to talk about a few within this lesson and encourage you to use them. Try them out. See what works for you. See what doesn't. There is this time where you're going to have to experiment with what's going to work for you. Since we weren't taught this in school, we do need models. Models are supportive. So let's break down a few. The first delegation genius we are going to shout out is Jesse Eitzler.
Love him.
Love him so much.
He's an owner of a private jet company and is
he's a G.
Yeah, an author. He's actually also a rapper.
Oh, so he is a G. He actually is a G. And he said, if you don't have an assistant, you are one.
Cut to the heart.
Literally.
I mean, it's not bad to be an assistant. Sorry. It's just
no, it's not. I mean, assistants run the world.
Right.
If you're an assistant listening, you actually run the world.
Correct.
But that's the point. Everyone needs one. I mean, what does that mean? I think it means you really need to be delegating anything that doesn't require your personal brain. Is that scheduling, errands, inbox, admin? Is it laundry? It doesn't even need to just strictly be things related to your business. if there's other things within your personal life that just aren't on the priority list and it doesn't require your brain and your hands to do it, delegate it.
The next genius that we're going to talk about, his name is Tim Ferriss. He is the one who like started the 4-hour work week. So I think a lot of people are familiar with that. He has this method called the DEAL method, DEAL. So you first start with D, which stands for definition. So what does success look like for you? What are your goals and what is enough? You have to know what you want. You have to know where you want to go. If your goal is to scale, keep that in mind. If that's what success looks like for you, if having a team is successful to you, if that's where you see yourself, you have to know what you want first. The next one, E, elimination. Before you delegate. This is huge. Ask yourself, does this even need to be done at all? We talk about this in, I think, the first episode, that there's a lot of work that you do, that a lot of research and planning that you do that can really be avoided. So before you delegate a task that you're like, I don't really have the time to do that, does it really need to be done? Are you like being a perfectionist right now? Like, be honest with yourself.
Yeah. Like, do you really need to put that on someone else's to-do list?
Right. The next letter, A, is automation. There's so many amazing tools, systems, softwares, and it's huge right now. If you're not using AI, you're falling behind so bad. And I just think it's even like outdated for me to say that because I think everybody knows that by now.
Hopefully.
And I'm not talking about ChatGPT.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is not the only AI tool. There are AI
we're talking
tools.
about Otter.
Otter's really good.
Sponsor
But
us.
even
we're talking about Scribe. Scribe sponsor us.
There's another one called Make.
Yeah.
There's another one. Zapier is really amazing.
Yeah, AI is just so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Like, we're not even sitting here and like, I mean, we're acting like fangirls right now, but like, it's so cool.
And critical right now.
Yeah.
Very, very.
Yeah. But also, the point with this automation is expand your idea of delegation outside of people.
Right, exactly.
Delegation doesn't now in today's world doesn't just mean people. It also means tools.
Yeah.
Using automation.
Yeah.
So I love that letter.
Mm-hmm.
A for automation.
A for automation. Let's go. And then the last one is L, liberation, which is like another way of saying delegation, I guess. So delegate.
We just didn't want it to say dead.
Yeah.
So it needed
didn't want it. Tim Ferriss said, we're not going to make this say dead. We're making it say deal. So liberation it is. I think like the best way to do this is to create an SOP, which is standard operating procedure.
Okay, corporate girly.
I love an SOP. I love an SOP. Even in like the corporate world, I'm like, if I get handed a new task, I'm like, is there an SOP for this? Because I don't really remember how to, actualize these budgets right now.
Yeah, especially when it's something you don't do a lot.
Yeah.
It's very, very important to have SOPs.
An SOP.
This is where Scribe kind of comes in. I feel like different people learn different ways. Loom is a great tool where you can record.
I use Loom all the time.
The SOP, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's another tool that I recently discovered called Scribe, and you take a video, but then it pulls out screenshots and puts it into written form, the SOP.
Shut up.
Isn't that crazy?
Shut up.
It's insane. It's such a cool tool.
That's so hot.
So if you are working with people that are more visual, or you just want something a little bit more accessible that's quicker than maybe like being 2 times on a Loom, Scribe is kind of hot. Using the DEAL method forces you to audit first, like Sophie mentioned. And it also ensures that you're not just dumping tasks onto other people and being really strategic. Let's go back to that. Strategically delegating. That is the key. It's not just, here's a task, go do it. You need to be strategic when you're delegating. Lesson 5, delegate the work that's keeping you out of your zone of genius. So we're going to laugh at me a little bit, all of us together. When I first tried to scale my business, I thought my hires should handle new business and client communication. We're all laughing, right? We're all laughing.
I love that for you. It's okay. We're all learning.
I really love that for me.
We're all learning here.
I'm really laughing at myself because what was I thinking? But I'm sharing that because it's real. And as I've grown in my career, I realized quickly that the real bottleneck for me personally within my own business was production.
100%.
And so that's where I needed support the most. Staying in direct communication with the client or end customer was the most important thing to me at that time when I thought I was going to put somebody in a client-facing role. And those areas of the business ultimately were not going to be the areas of the business that I was going to be comfortable delegating. So I think you need to remember as you are starting to delegate that you're not just delegating tasks, you are delegating resistance within your business. And for me, the resistance was production. So thinking I needed to delegate the client, the end-to-end client experience, that was not the resistance for me.
Yeah.
The resistance was the production. So
totally.
What I want you to do is figure out what is the resistance in your own operation. And that is what you need to be delegating. Something I personally struggle with a lot with delegation is trust issues when it comes to letting go and just releasing some of that control. And if that's something you're also struggling with, first of all, know that you're not alone. A lot of people feel the same way. And delegation isn't just a logistical decision, it's also an emotional one. And it requires you to trust, experiment, and sometimes have a bad experience and still try again. I have had a lot of bad experiences. I think I'm cursed. Actually cursed in the department of delegation.
No, we're going to change that energy
most
around.
Recently, I cursed us in Untitled. I brought my curse to Untitled because we tried to delegate our creative launch assets to a graphic designer. We are on multiple calls with her, pay her.
We paid her.
She ghosts us.
She completely ghosted us like the week
I think the strongest ghosting I've ever experienced.
I know, like worse than some boys that have ghosted me.
Yeah. And the first time I tried to scale my own business down the path of delegation, I also failed miserably. My own sister actually despised me as her boss. I think ultimately you need to understand that you're not going to be perfect at it when you start it. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be hard. And those are normal feelings to have when you are starting the process of delegating. I mean, even if you've been delegating for a while, you could be experiencing that.
Right. But it goes back to what we started this episode with. If you're not feeling like it's a little bit difficult, if you're not feeling a little unsure, if you're not feeling like a little uncomfortable, you're probably not even delegating strategically. So we want you to really walk away from this episode feeling motivated to delegate proactively.
Yeah, mastering delegation is not going to happen overnight, but committing to it is going to change everything about the way that you work.
If delegation has ever felt like a luxury or a last resort, we hope this episode helped you realize it's actually your first line of defense against burnout, against doing it all alone, against being the one who always carries the group project.
And if letting go still feels uncomfortable, same. That means that you're doing it right. Delegation isn't about dumping tasks. It's about building something that doesn't fall apart the second that you step away.
So to help you move from survival mode to strategy, we put together a free homework resource. It's linked in the show notes. You'll find 5 multiple choice questions, a short reflection, and a few different practice challenges depending on where you're at right now.
There's also a delegation audit if you're not sure what to offload, and a deal method worksheet to help you delegate on purpose, not out of panic. Next week, we're talking about how to raise your GPA. And no, Not that one. We're talking about your getting paid amount, baby. It's pricing and negotiation 101.
Until then, stop trying to carry the group project. You have other things to do and people who can help you do them.